Hey everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're on the device, feel free to hang out. You may pick up some useful information that helps your fellow users if they need this, some of this information coming out here. Now, if I can, also ask you guys to stay clear of the stage area here. This way nobody blocks the display here, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? I'm going to direct your attention to your menu wheel in your lower left. You can notice at the very top of that is a microphone icon. And a microphone icon, when it is clear, that means you can hear what's happening in your environment. So, like maybe you have, so go ahead and turn to red. This means you're muted. So if somebody comes into your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? We're not going to hear that because, you're muted. Or maybe you have a dog barking in the background. You're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time, right? Now you're going to notice also that just because you're muted, you can't express. Doesn't mean you can't express yourself. You're going to notice you have this pink cheek smiley face in your menu wheel, and when you click on it, you have your emoji panel open up in front of you, and it's going to offer you a wide range of options with which to express yourself. Right. So if I share something really deep, powerful, it touches you right here, really meaningful there, and you start to feel it building up inside you, you can just let it out just like that, let it flow, show the love like that, right? Or maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? Let them out and they would break into, it's Go Time the musical, and you're all really impressed. You can throw up the applause that I live for, right? And take a moment to break them all in just like that, right? Maybe I ask you guys a yes or no question. You can say yes by smiling like this. You can say no by frowning like that. Maybe I say something funny. You want to show me you're laughing. You can go like this, show me that you're laughing. That's cool, right? And then there's this, right? Now you might think this is how you ask a question. It's not. It's how you get my attention, right? If something goes wrong. So if I'm moving my hands around like this and it looks like, something's going, right? And it looks like I'm talking, but you guys don't hear anything, that's a good time to press that button. And if I only see one hand go up, I'm going to, keep on going. But if I see 5 of them, I know there's a problem. Like maybe the display behind me, maybe it's caught on fire, right? And that actually happened one time on mods. We gave them Terraformer to, do special effects and stuff like that. And they thought it'd be really funny if right in the event, they'd burn down the set, right? If a giant fire came up in the audience, it was horrible. People screaming, still have nightmares about it. But that's why we stopped doing that, right? But that's a good time to press that button, so something's wrong, right? All right, so you also notice that there's an X in the middle of your emoji panel, and if you press it, your emoji panel will disappear. But it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this, because 1, it gives me feedback, and 2, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if the person next to you starts going like this, right? You'd be like, well, they must think that's funny. Let's say they don't stop. Let's say they keep on going. You're like, that's just weird. I don't like that. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can totally do that because this is VR, right? All right, cool. Now let's see. Now, what its Go Time is about primarily is we're going to be talking about how the Oculus Go performs in Altspace because there are some challenges. And speaking of challenges, I've been in bed for about the past 2 years due to a medical condition. It's improved a lot, but when my headset came, I was really looking forward to it, man. I looked up, I was just really psyched for it. And when you first put it on, feeling it being taken away to another world, there's nothing like it. Right? And I've been reading about Altspace for a while, so this was my first stop. And when I came out of that load screen for the very first time, that blue light that came out of there, and the first thing I did was I looked up. I looked up in the sky, and the sky looked a lot like what I remembered. And I was grateful. I was so grateful I started volunteering right away, like the same day. It was my first day in Altspace. I started volunteering right away as a moderator. And in the beginning, I got off to kind of a rough start because my battery would run out. And so before the event was over, my device would die. And I charged it up and I'd come back in, I'd try to find the host again and track them down. And when I finally did, I'd explain what happened and it was a rough start. So I started asking questions around, like, how can I improve the performance of my device, right? And I heard some stuff, right? Like I heard, for example, when I started asking these questions, I heard that I wouldn't be able to work this laser pointer on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. And these slides here, right? I was told that I wouldn't be able to work those on an Oculus Go. And that turned out to not be true. And I was told that despite having a background presenting material like this, that my device wasn't reliable enough to host events in Altspace. And that turned out to also not be true. All right, you absolutely can do all of this and more on an Oculus Go reliably. I'm gonna show you how, right? There's 2 paths you can take, all right? You can work with the device you already have on your heads before you even leave here today. You're gonna learn some stuff that's gonna improve your experience in here, right? But you can also upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And those of you that have been here before know that I can't stand this term because listen, if somebody keeps telling you every single day, like they keep telling you that they hate your shirt, right? After a while, you're gonna start thinking it's not the shirt that they don't like, right? You know, that's what happens. If you keep hearing it over and again, you're like, wait, what do they mean by that, right? And you know, that's a word you hear around, like limitations. I've heard inferior device, and none of this is true, right? Like the Oculus Go is a wonderful device. I feel about it the way most people feel about their first car, right? And you'll hear another word being tossed around Altspace an awful lot, and that is communities. There's a lot of wonderfully diverse, different communities represented in Altspace, and honestly, you know, it's you have to look at the headset as the vehicle that brings you in here. You're the important part of that equation. You're not your device any more than you are your house or your car or anything like that. And if you hear things like that, it's important to keep that in mind. Because when I first came into Altspace and I heard that stuff, I didn't particularly care for it too much. Still don't actually. All right, so let's start with the device you have on your head, right? Now, you may not realize this, but your device is going to lose power even when it's not in use, right? So when you put your device down, you come out of Altspace and you put your device down on the table there, and let's say it has 100% power. By morning, it's going to have less power to it, right? And the more that you use it, it's like it's doing things when you're not using it. It's checking for app updates, it's checking for firmware updates. You know, maybe it's got a whole secret life you don't know anything about. Maybe your headset has like a pen pal on the other side of the world or something like that, right? You know, so it's important to keep in mind that like you got to use a little advanced planning because if you come into Altspace with like say a 20% charge, you're going to notice things like your screen flickers, right? The higher the percentage of the battery power, the more reliably it's going to operate. So what you're going to want to do is like if you look at the event schedule and you're like, I'm going to come into Altspace tonight, what am I going to do? Right? And you look at the event schedule and see, oh, Go Time's on tonight. I've heard good things about the host. I've heard he's got this amazing shirt that you're starting to see everywhere, and he's got that hair, right? You know, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go do that. What you want to do is you want to plug your device in about an hour before you come into Altspace, right? This way you're coming in on 100% charge and you're starting out the best possible way, right? Also, you're going to notice that when you first put the device on your head, that power button that you press to turn it on, the very first thing you want to do, and make this a habit, is you want to push down on that center button, right, and hold it for about 4 seconds, and you're going to see these 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you. The middle button is going to say restart, and you push that restart button, right? You aim at it and you click at it, right? And your device is going to restart, and it's going to clear out all the temporary files that when it was doing the updates and it was checking for things like that. Maybe it was working on that, that letter to its pen pal, right? All that stuff's going to clear out, and I like to think of this as like clearing your mind before you come into Altspace. And when you do, you go into that load screen, right, and you step out, you may have noticed what an important role body language plays in Altspace. People can say so much without actually saying anything. Like if you're at an event like this and somebody's, a moderator comes up to you and they start shaking their head like this back and forth, that means don't do that thing, right? Or maybe, I'm up here and somebody makes it on the stage, right, and I'm going like this, and that means get off my stage, right? I don't even actually say anything for you to see that. But occasionally you're going to notice that your real world hand might be right here, but your avatar's hand might be up here. And when it doesn't match like that, you're not going to be communicating properly. Like, example, I could go to wave you off the stage like this, but all you guys are going to see is my hand going back and forth like this, saying, hey guys, welcome to Go Time. And I'm not actually saying that, am I? Right? You can be doing it. Who's it up in the sound booth? You can come on down here if you want to. High and narrow on the back there? Okay, that's cool. Strange angle. Come on down here with the rest of us. Yeah, all right, cool. Nice to see you, Dragon Feather. You do that, I think you're filming, man. All right, okay, and we already got that covered, actually. If you notice, you got Raven Eye up there floating in there. That's our YouTube camera. Just going out on YouTube to record them. So if you want to say hi to YouTube now, you can. You can wave, hey, YouTube, how's it going, right? We got Deadster94 right here. You saw Dragon Feather come down from the booth. You got Rain. You got Leo the Great, 18, because the first 17 didn't work out, but the 18, he was pretty awesome. All right, so here we go. Now we got so what's going to happen is occasionally you're going to notice that you're, lost my place with that. That's odd. Okay, so you reset your device. All right, yeah. Okay, what's going to happen is occasionally in Altspace, you're going to notice that your hands don't match the location, right? The way you deal with this, the way you solve this, is that you hold your hand at your side like this, right? And now on your controller, you've got your trackpad, and below that you have a button, and below that you have a button. Don't push that button or you'll be taken to the main menu. That's like an eject button, right? But this button does something else, and this you can do now. Okay? What you can do is if you hold that bottom button down while looking straight ahead and you have your hand at your side like this, you press and hold that button, and after a few seconds, you're going to see a white circle spin in the air, and then your hand is going to snap right into place. And then take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? If it is, then you're good. If not, do it again until you feel comfortable. Only you can determine what's comfortable for you, kind of an individual experience there, and you can, do it how long as it takes to make you feel comfortable there. All right, now another thing that can happen occasionally in Altspace is you're going to notice that your main menu wheel on the lower left there, occasionally that's going to drift around and it can become hard to reach, especially if it goes behind you or if it's like directly in front of you. It can make you feel a little off balance. It's usually most comfortable with it on the left side there. And occasionally when it moves around like that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to notice on your trackpad, there's a button just below the trackpad, right? That middle button there. And when you press that middle button, your main menu is going to open up in front of you. So you don't always have to press that blue and white triangle button to open your main menu. It's in your hands at all times. So all you have to do is just look straight ahead, press that middle button there, and your menu opens up in front of you. You press it again, and it closes, but it has the benefit of taking your menu wheel and putting it back in the right place. So basically, if your menu wheel moves around into a place you don't like, just look straight ahead, press that menu button, right? And there's a menu in front of you. Cool. Press it again, the menu closes, and now your menu wheel is right where it's supposed to be. All right, so that'll take care of that. All right, now another thing you got to keep in mind here is one of the best pieces of advice I got in the beginning, like I told you, yeah, my battery power, wouldn't last very long when I first started coming into Altspace. One of the best pieces of advice I got in the beginning was somebody told me to turn down my brightness, and I didn't want to because I want to have the best graphic experience I possibly could have in Altspace, right? And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up to like retina burning levels, man. It was painful, but my graphics were awesome, or so I thought. Right? What happened was when I went to the main menu, on the main menu, when I went all the way to the right side where it said settings, and I went to the middle where it said brightness, and I made sure auto brightness was turned off, and I started turning it down every time I came into Altspace. There's a big blue bar there. I would knock it down a little bit every time. I'd come into Altspace, turn it down again, and I kept going until eventually there was no more blue left, and it was turned completely off. Right? And once the brightness was completely off, right, I found I started lasting longer in Altspace. I started making it through entire events. Right? But what's more is when I first came in with the brightness completely off, I didn't know what to expect, right? So I came in one of the events that I would help moderate for, and there was this tree in the corner where I learned how to moderate, and I went up to this tree and I looked at it, right? And I couldn't get over what I saw. It was like more realistic than I'd ever seen it before. It looked very real. So if you turn your brightness all the way down, you're going to enjoy better graphics, your device is going to perform better, and most importantly, your battery is going to last longer, right? This is definitely worth doing. You should totally do that, try that out. Now, one of the reasons the Oculus Go users in Altspace get a bad reputation is because of sound. All right. What happens is the microphone on the Oculus Go is extremely powerful. And as the sound comes out of your ear straps, it's picked up by the microphone and gets projected out into Altspace. Until we got that YouTube channel, I had no idea what I sounded like in Altspace. I had no clue. Right. It was the first time I heard myself. They really should come up with like a sound mirror or something like that where you can actually talk and hear what you sound like. Right. That would probably help a lot. But what happens is, like, let's say, especially if you're a new user, right? You're walking in the campfire and you see a group of avatars over there talking, and you start walking towards them, right? And they're over there and they're all talking and hanging out. And all of a sudden they turn and they face you. You haven't said a word, but they turn and they look right at you, right? And then they come at you and they go, "Are you want to go? Are you want to go?" It doesn't feel too awesome when that happens, right? But, like the reason they're doing that is because from their perspective, what they're hearing is they're standing there, they're talking to their friends. They're like, "Hey, Leo, did you hear about that thing? That thing that happened, that time, right? In that place. It was wild, right? It was a good time." And then all of a sudden they hear something and they turn, right? They're hearing a voice, and that voice sounds very familiar, right? It's their own voice as it was in the past, because it's basically the sounds going in, you're picking it up through your ears, and then it's coming out through your microphone. It's coming back out in the Altspace, and it's like an echo. Right? Now, fortunately, it's really easy to manage this. You're going to notice on your device, on the left-hand side, on the top, you've got those two buttons, right? The left-hand button is going to bring the volume down, and just next to that's the volume up button, right? Now, when you press either one of them, you're going to see these vertical bars in the air in front of you. Some will be solid, some will be clear. What you're going for is 4 clear bars on the right side, right? And this will have your volume at such a level that it won't be picked up as easily from the microphone, all right? And once you do this, you're going to notice that people are going to start being nice to you right away, because they're not going to be hearing themselves coming back as they were in the past, right? And they can focus on what they're saying, and you're going to have better conversations. Now, one thing that could completely solve this is if you get some headphones and you put those on, right? That'll make sure the only sound coming out of your avatar is your own, right? Also, you could try inexpensive earbuds. In my case, my wife had these inexpensive earbuds there, right? She went to the library and she got these free earbuds they gave her. And she brought them home. She was like, "Look what I got." And sadly, they suddenly disappeared, right? But the good news, showed up a short time later, attached to my device. They remain there to this day, right? So it worked out. It's a good thing we found them, huh? All right. So what happened was after that, right? The only sound coming out of my avatar was, my own, right? Except occasionally you'd still hear my wife saying, "Are you still on that thing?" Right? And we fixed that too. We got her own headset. She comes in, she helps us out moderating. She's a really talented world builder, and it's lucky to have. Okay, now this got me thinking though. What else can I add to the device that would improve its performance, right? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. And in order to talk about that, I'm going to need to talk about these products here. But keep in mind, these are not the only products that work. These are just the ones that I myself use, right? So I feel comfortable recommending them. But keep in mind, it's the ideas behind these products that matter the most, right? But if you do want to try any of these, you're going to have a temptation to write them down. It's really hard to write down things down in VR. So we made them easy for you to find. If you go to altvr.com, you're going to notice in the upper left, it's going to say channels. And when you click on channels, you're going to see all these Altspace event channels, right? And you'll see among them, you'll see a ribbon hole event says in the up there, right? And if you click on that, you're going to be taken to our event page. And on our event page on the left-hand side, we're going to have all these products that are linked to them so you can find them easy, right? And also there'll be a join Discord button there. You can join our Discord, help us put on events like this. And then you'll also see the most important button on the internet, the subscribe button, right? That subscribe button, when you press it, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content, and we don't get paid to do this. So when that number goes up, it feels good. So, that's a nice way to say thank you. All right, now, these products themselves, what they do, right? I call it a Go Plus experience because when I did these things I'm about to talk about, I found I was able to last longer in places that other Go users couldn't. Like I'd go into like a heavy performant world, right? And once I got there, I noticed other Go users, they'd fall on the floor, right? Or they'd disappear as they crashed, but I'd remain. And sometimes it would get choppy, but my device became super reliable, and yours can too. And this is all you have to do, right? The first device is an Anker Power Core battery pack. Right, and it's supposed to last for 16 hours. Now, Oculus says that we shouldn't use our devices when they're plugged in, right? But with this, they say it's okay to use an external battery pack, so I started there. I figured this would solve my battery problem, right? And 16 hours, that's a long time. I don't think I'd ever need to be in VR for that long because, I like food, water, heard good things about sleep, and I think about trying that out later, right? And so, yeah, you've got that battery pack that's supposed to solve that. And when I ordered mine, I also ordered it with this MagSafe cable. That's this one in the middle here. And what that does is, I don't know if you've ever tried this. When you plug in your device and you unplug your device and then you plug it back in and then you unplug it, you ever notice how tight it is? And I had heard people were having problems charging, and I felt that the more you used it, the looser it would become, and it wouldn't make a proper connection, and it would charge as effectively. So I got this MagSafe cable, and you put one tip into the side of your headset, and it stays there, right? The other tip goes into the battery, and then it's held in place by a magnetic connection, right? And then all you have to do, right, is just hold it to the side of your headset there. And if it falls off, like, because if you turn your head suddenly, instead of your headset, being pulled down in a different direction, that can feel weird, right? The cable will just pop off. And you don't even got to come out of VR to fix it. You just pick it up, hold it to the side of your head, and if you have your microphone in place, it'll like thunk into place. And if you have your microphone open, your friends are going to hear that thunk sound. They're going to go, "What was that?" And you'll be like, "That's power. That's what that was. That was pure power." And you don't have to say that. I just found it felt good to do that. Right, so feel free to take that if you want. All right, so now that it was lasting longer in VR and I was lasting longer in Altspace, I found I had a new problem: overheating. Have any of you overheated before? Right, I see a hand there, see smiles there, hands. Yeah, pretty much everybody. Right now, the faceplate on the Oculus Go is installed by hand. Right, so people have different experiences with this. Some people overheat every half hour. That was me. I know somebody that overheats every 2 minutes, if you can believe that. The first Go time we ever had, there was a guy in the audience who told us that half of his headset had become deformed and pushed in from the heat. This made me nervous. I knew this was a problem we had to solve, right? I heard that some people were putting ice packs on their faceplate. I don't think that's a good idea because condensation, water, electricity on your face, probably not a good mix. And the people I know who tried this, they actually went through more than one headset. Right, so that can be pretty expensive. You don't want to do that. What we did come up with, right, was this AC Infinity USB fan. It's a mini fan. It's small. It fits right in the palm of your hand, right, and you put it on so that the silver part is facing your faceplate, and then you can attach the rubber feet right there. You can attach it to your headset with, like, in my case, I used some hair bands that my wife suddenly found were missing, and then or you can use some string or something like that. Just attach it in the way that works best for you, as long as it's facing that faceplate. Now, the first day I got it, first day it arrived, I was set to moderate at the meditation event. And it's a really cool space. It's on top of a mountain. There are, some bowls with some smoke coming out. It's a really neat space. And when I was going to go there, and I figured, because every time I would moderate that event, I would overheat exactly 20 minutes into the experience. It was always 20 minutes for some reason. And, so I would go in there and I'd wait for it to happen. And so the first time I went in with the fan, you ever see Star Trek with the Borg? I felt like that because I had all these wires coming down, right, out the side there, right? I had my fan going, and I walked up to the host, Jeremy, really nice guy, and he asked, "Can you hear my fan?" All right? And he says, "I can't hear it at all. This thing is whisper quiet, right? It's very, very quiet." And so I turned it up to medium because it's got 3 settings. I turned it to medium. I said, "Can you hear that?" And he says, "Yeah, a little bit, but it's not that bad." And I turned it up to high, and he goes, "Oh, I can definitely hear that. You sound like you're in a wind tunnel." So I turned it down to its lowest setting. And once it was at its lowest setting, I never had to turn it up again because here's what happened. right? I went through the event. 20 minutes in, when I was supposed to overheat, I didn't. Then the event finished, and I was still here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to another event. So I went to a second event. And at the second event, right, I went all the way through, and then I went to a third event. And then I went back to my home space, and I hung out with my friends. And I was there for a while, and you know what happened? I left Altspace for the very first time, right, because I was tired. I didn't leave because I overheated. I didn't leave because I ever, ran out of power. It was the very first time I ever left Altspace by choice, right? Because I wanted to. And it wouldn't be the last time. After that, I became super active. I started, hosting events and monitoring events. I was all over Altspace after that. I do 8 events a week now, and that's where it began, because my device became super reliable. And yours can too. You just got to make a few small changes, and none of this is expensive. You have this, the mini fan here is about $10 or $11 US. The cable's about $7 US. The most expensive thing up here is the battery pack. That's about $50 or $60 US. And you know what? They come in different sizes and different colors, different capacities, right? So you can find what works best for you, right? Okay, now let's see what else we got here. Now, all these problems solved didn't mean there weren't still some problems. And these are more like annoyances, and I'm going to show you how to manage some of them, okay? What you have is, the first one I'm going to talk about is a movement issue, right? Like, so let's say that I'm in the campfire and I'm hanging out, and I go to turn on my left to say something to Hummingbird, right? But instead of turning left, I go straight, and I'm like, whoa, that was weird. And I go to tell Justice about it on my right. I go to turn right, but instead of turning right, I go straight. And I'm like, wait, that's really odd. So then I start pushing down on that back button on my trackpad, but instead of going backwards, I keep going straight, and I start bashing all the buttons together, and I keep going straight no matter what happens. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. There is nothing more frightening than standing inside of an admin. I saw things when I was in there too, man. I saw things about development. I saw things about, moderation, and I saw things about, the past, the future. It's just messed up. I can't even really talk about it. What I can talk about is how to solve this issue. What you're going to notice is on your trackpad, right? If you take your thumb, and the direction doesn't matter. It can be from right to left or left to right. But what you want to do is very gently, without pressing down, you're going to interrupt the connection because it's sensitive to heat, moisture, and of course touch, because it's a touchpad, right? All you do is you go swipe, 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 right? And every time you get to the other side, lift your thumb up in the air, right? Cross down the other side, right? And just very gently swipe across, right? Once, and do it again, twice, then do it again, 3 times, right? Just like that, and make it a habit. And then when you can do it after 3 times, come down in the direction you want to move, and you'll be moving that way. So if you find, like, if I go to move backwards, but I go forwards, I just stop and I go swipe, 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 and then I start moving again, and I'll be able to go the way I want to, right? It helps a lot. You should try that. All right. Now, the other thing that can happen is occasionally you're going to put your headset on, and usually it's going to be when you're in a rush, right? Like you got to moderate an event, you got to host an event, maybe you got a hot date. I can hear that. It can happen in here, right? And, you put your headset on, and there's going to be a notice that says can't find controller. Now, that can happen if you didn't, put a fresh battery in your controller. But you put a fresh battery in there last night, so that's not the problem. For some reason, your controller is no longer speaking with your headset. Maybe it found out about its secret life, and it wasn't too happy about it, right? What you can do, though, you can fix this without even taking your headset off. What you're going to want to do is and you just remember 2 words, double down. You remember that, you'll be okay. What'll happen is, you put your headset on, you see that notice, can't find controller. Then what you do is you double down. And what I mean by this is, on your controller, just below the trackpad, you have those 2 buttons, right? If you press those 2 buttons down at the same time and hold them there, after about 4 seconds, a little white light's going to go off on your trackpad, a little tiny white light at the top. If you're wearing a headset, you won't see it, but what you will see is after about 4 seconds, when you lift your thumb back up, you're going to see that you have your hand back, and you're going to come back in, you're going to step into that load screen, and you're going to be like, man, I am glad I went to go time. That Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down, and now I got to be on time for my event, so if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right, cool. Now, the other thing that can happen in Altspace retire time, and this doesn't happen as much these days because Altspace has made a lot of changes to increase performance, but it still happens. What happens is occasionally you're going to notice that your screen goes dark, right? People still be able to hear you if your microphone is open. So all you have to say is, guys, I can't see, I'll be right back, right? And, this can get pretty annoying, so what you can do is get ahead of it before it happens, right? The reason this is happening is because everything you see in this room, all these, all of your avatars and the stage, right? The shrub poster over there and a big red button. What this does, you'll see at the end of our event. We press this and stuff cool happens. We enter our events with this now. But all this stuff is in your headset right now, and it's going to stay there. So if after this event, you go to the campfire, hang out, you're not thinking about go time anymore, but your head still is. You're like, oh, that was a cool event. That at the end, you push that button and that thing happened. But that button's still going to stay in your headset. All right. So what you can do is you can get ahead of this before it happens. So when you leave this event, like, you turn to your friend and say, that was pretty cool. What do you want to do now? And your friend goes, let's go to the campfire. All you have to do is say, okay, right, I'll be right back. And then you press that bottom button on your controller. You think of that like an eject button, right? you eject out of Altspace, you hit quit, and you get the choice between quit or resume. That resume button's pretty handy if you press it on accident. But you press quit, and then you get back to the Oculus main menu, and you come right back into the app by starting Altspace again. And then you just, head on over to the campfire and meet your friend. It only takes about a minute. They won't even know you were gone, really. You were in the little screen that whole time. But this is a good way to manually clear your memory out. You get to choose when it happens to you. And it's a good way. So if notice you're getting that dark screen a lot, this is a really great way to stay ahead of it. All right, now let's see what else we have here. Okay, now I see I'm a little over on time. I have some world building tips if you'd like to hear them. Otherwise, we can jump right into the questions. Show me some hearts if you want to hear the world building tips. Otherwise, we'll go right to the questions. All right, you want to hear the world building tips? We got one for the world building tips. Anybody else? 2, 3? Okay, let's do this thing. Just bear in mind, we're a little bit over our time. I'll try to go quick. Let's see. Now, when you're building worlds in Altspace, on Tuesdays, I go and I moderate for the world building events that they have there on Tuesday. And if you have to be in the world beta program, and you can turn this on through your main menu under settings on where it says general, you can enter there. And this is going to enable you to build worlds. But I've heard a lot of Oculus Go users say that they can't build worlds on the Oculus Go, and it's simply not true. These devices are capable of remarkable precision. They really are. As a matter of fact, when we take everybody flying at the end of this event, we're going to go to the Ravenhall Flight Academy, and that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. Right? And anybody can do this, really. There's really nothing to it. It's pretty easy. But why do so many people think that they can't, build worlds on an Oculus Go? Well, the reason for this is when you first start building worlds and you go to grab that first object, right, you're going to notice it's whipping around in the air like really wild, right? And you're like, what's going on? And it can take a while to realize that it's actually your head that's controlling the object. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone, let alone a virtual one, right? It can be a little bit difficult to keep a level head there. So what you want to do is when you open your world editor, you're going to notice on the menu that opens up with all the items that are in your world, you're going to notice that there's a lock rotation button. And when you click that lock rotation button, now your head's not going to control the movement. What you do is if you point at the object and you squeeze your trigger one time, right, you just squeeze and release it really quickly, right? Now you're going to notice that you can, adjust the rotation with your hand, right? And now as soon as you get the object nice and level, you squeeze and release that trigger one more time and it'll lock it into place. Now, if you squeeze and release that trigger, right, you can move the object up, down. Actually, if you squeeze and hold the trigger, you'll move it up, down, left, and right, just like that. And if you swipe your thumb across the trackpad, left to right, you'll change the size. Or if you move it up and down, you'll push the object away or you pull it closer to you. Or if you hold on to that trigger, you can carry it around and manually place it where you want to, right? And this is really a great way to build. So let's say I want to place this laser pointer here, right? And let's find a good spot for it. We'll put it right on the edge of the stage here, just like that there, right? That's cool, right? Now you'll notice that the way I place this, it looks like if this were the real world, it would fall off, right? But on an Oculus Go, you don't need to be precise, just get it close enough. And now what you would do is you'd open up your world editor, and in the world editor, you're going to see a list of all the items in the world, and you'd look for the item, like in this case, it would say laser pointer, right? And there'll be a cogwheel next to that. When you press that cogwheel, a window's going to open up that's going to have all these numbers on it. There's going to be numbers for the position, for the rotation, and for the scale of the size. And what you want to do is you want to play with this a little bit at a time, right? So let's say the X on it says that it's at 20. And I change it to 19 just to see what happens. And as soon as I hit enter, the laser pointer jumps and it lands over here, right? And that's cool, right? So that means anytime I lower the number down, it's going to move in this direction. That means if I change it to 21, it would move that way. And that means if I change it on the Z, it's going to move that way or that way, all right? And now, the more you do this, right, the easier it's going to get. And, so as soon as you place your first item and you get it where you want it, the second item is going to be easier, and you're going to start building faster and faster. And I know that little keyboard they give us to type on, right? That can be a little difficult to get used to that. It's like when you play a video game, right? The first time you play it, all you're thinking about is the controls. And then after, about a week of playing the game, right? You're not thinking about the controls anymore. You're thinking about saving the world, right? You're thinking about crushing your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday, right? So that'll help a lot, right? That's a good thing to help. All right, now, let's see, we're going to be taking your questions now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so you can raise your hand. So you're going to notice a raise hand button appear on your lower right, just by magic, right? And if you press that raise hand button, I'll see that you have a question, and we'll call on you. I got to feel like I'm on the radio when I do that. And while we're waiting for the list to fill up, if you guys are on Twitter and you want to follow us, you can find us at Ravenhall @ Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it's actually 2. All right, let's see, we've got Deadster9. I don't get to see the full name here, but that's pretty close. Let's see, you're on the air. Deadster, what's your question? What's up?
So for the fan you were talking about, is it exclusively a Go, or can it work on things like the Rift and the Quest?
Some of the things that I talked about can work on the Quest. Actually, we have another event called Quest Time, and we cover like, Quest specific information. This is mainly for the Go. Like, for example, the Quest has an internal fan in it, right? And you won't have to worry about overheating as much. The Rift, I don't think has any real overheating issues that I'm aware of, because it's connected to the computer and it doesn't really have to fight as hard to do these high-end processes like Altspace, right? But some of the stuff like the resetting your controller thing, that'll work on the Rift. So some of the stuff carries over. But yeah, it's just mainly going to be about, or has been about, the Oculus Go. But we do discuss the Quest and other events. Justice, I saw you were raising your hand there. If you press that raise hand button in your lower right, I'll be able to call on you because I'll see on my list there, like on the megaphone, right there like that. All right. Not that raise hand emoji. It's on your lower right hand side. You'll see a circle that says raise hand. And you press on that, and you appear on my list, and then I call on your name there. You get to be Altspace famous, and everyone on YouTube is asking you a question. No pressure, right? But yeah, if you press that raise hand button, we'll be able to see it. All right, there we go. Justice, I see you. Here we go. And you're on the air. What's going on, Justice?
Okay, so I wondered if you had any, I know there's a insert if you wear glasses, but is there
Yes.
an insert just for a more comfortable, like, to
Yeah,
make your
actually,
head more comfortable?
if
Mine
you,
is
uh,
always, God, so much.
there's a company there's a company called VR Cover, right? And there's a link to it on our event page. It's actually we have it for the Quest, but they actually do make ones for Go too. And it's they have all these different types of inserts. You got one that's like kind of like a leathery type thing, right? And that's really great for like blocking out light. There's another one that's cloth, and it comes with two of them, so you can like wash one while the other one's in use. And that's good for the hygiene and all that stuff. But they make all kinds of inserts that you can use. And VR Cover is a great company to make some really fine products. All right. So let's see. Now, if you guys do have any more questions, we are going to be taking you guys flying, so you can ask them there. If you've never flown before, but we're doing it in a very cool way, because where we're going to take you guys flying to Ravenhall Flight Academy, we have these hovercraft there that you can fly, right? So if you have any questions, we will take them there. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to press this big red button on the wall. And if you've learned anything here today, please share it with those you come in contact with. So if somebody's standing in a campfire and they're like, my face is on fire because my headset's overheating all the time, tell them about the fan, or tell them about Go Time. Tell them how they can find us, right? And that's where we can solve, all their problems. And that's how we help keep this thing going. But that said, we're going to push this red button. If you look out your window, the window right here, I don't know if it's your window, but the window, if you look out the window, you're going to see one of our Talon hovercrafts. And again, you guys can fly these if you want to when we get to the academy. It's going to fly down the street. It's going to fly over the back above those trees. It's going to land in the backyard there. So direct your attention out the window, and I'll press that button. Here we go. Look.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Here it comes. There we go. Now, if we go outside, we can, out back there, we can join it and go off to the Ravenhall Flight Academy and learn how to fly if you don't know how. You can also fly these ships there. And if you have any questions, we'll take them there. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. Okay, I should have done that before. There we go. Very nice. Okay, cool. All right, it's coming down. Awesome. And it's going to pop out a portal. That's going to take us over to the academy. And thanks for coming, guys.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.